We can either go through life and say bad things are happening to me, boo me. We could say that there's a purpose for this. Marriage shows that people thrive more. You are literally doing life with someone to support you through it. So that's a beautiful thing. That's something we need to celebrate. That's something we need to even encourage. And we need to take responsibility for how we train up our young children.
Gezen Soida, it's such a joy to talk to you. A lot of people will have read about you already. First of all, welcome to the Coalition for Marriage YouTube channel.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you are another one of these amazing people who have fallen into difficulty simply because you've expressed what until 5 minutes ago was the globally held view around what marriage means, i.e., marriage is the thing that describes what only a man, a biological man, you've got to say these days, and a biological woman can do. And you got into trouble for saying that. And so, what we're going to do, if that's okay, is have a couple of minutes just talking to you about that, about what happened, how it's made you feel, where we're going from here, and maybe some other bits and bobs around that. But before we even go there, let me just say it's great that wonderful Christian Concern, Christian Legal Centre have been supporting you in some of these issues, because otherwise you might have found it difficult. So big shout out to them. Gezen, over to you. What's been going on?
Well, I was in what I would say a kind of like dream job. I love empowering people, particularly young people. I had a legal career, and then I remember I just felt so strongly in my heart. I want to help people before they have need for the law. I want to help people before they have get themselves in trouble and need to be saved almost. So, what better place to do that than the education system? I found out that my borough was actually the worst in youth knife crime rates, and I don't
Mm.
live in a borough that you would think is major in crime. So, that was a shock to me. I had this opportunity to go to a conference where they were telling us about the problem, and I went to the organizer and said, "How can I help?" And they said, "Well, we need mentors." So I volunteered. I was like, I got a couple of mornings a week, let me volunteer. So I was volunteering, and they're like, "You're really good. Can we just have you on full time?" They got me in full time. I was going to secondary schools around my London borough. And again, like children that were in known to gangs, like that were near exclusion because of the challenges in their lives. So these were people that really needed help. We would find ways to work with them, with the families, with the school to just best facilitate and empower these young people that needed it. So then I got headhunted with one of the schools that I was working with, the Catholic girls' school. And they were like, "We need you." And there's actually an email that says, "The girls need you, the school needs you, I need you."
Ha.
Because they'd seen the results I had with the
Mm.
students. So they're like, we need you. We need someone like you full time at our school. And this opportunity opened for a year 10 pastoral lead. And in the UK, it's equivalent to a head of year, a non-teaching head of year. So I would do assemblies. And the fact that it was a Catholic school, I was able to mention scriptures. I was able to use the word of God because it was all over the halls anyway. Um, we're able to pray with the students, able to really empower them with truth, not my opinion, with truth. I loved it. I loved being there for them, helping them, safeguarding behavior, building them, putting them in programs to utilize their skills.
Let me just point out, because it's very clear to anyone listening that you are a Christian and you love your Lord. And I'm a Christian too, don't hide that. But many of our supporters come from all faiths and none. We've got a lot of people who don't believe in any God at all, but they believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and it should be. And it just kind of like it's natural and it makes perfect sense. And all the research says it brings about the best version of the next generation, and it's great for society. But I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, this is going to be a religious freedom case. It's not, because you're talking about, or you'll come on to things which are all about free speech and saying evidence-based factual things. Just wanted to drop that in there. So you, Christian, Catholic school, teaching about good things, it should all go swimmingly well from here, shouldn't it?
It should. And just as a little caveat, I was raised culturally Muslim. So that's been a big cultural influence of the traditions of marriage because they're very similar. My parents are still married 44 years on. So that's the example I've seen around me. And then later in my early 20s did I learn about the Bible and what God had to say specifically. So yes, then I found myself in some Some trouble, I guess. But to me, it made no sense. Before I was headhunted for this role, I had an online ministry page um, called Wife in the Waiting on Instagram. There was a scripture, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor from the Lord. Very common scripture. So I got the revelation that they don't find you as a girlfriend, they don't find you as just a woman, they find you as a wife. And then it began to unfold. Like, what does this mean? Um, it, I then kind of like in studying it more and more that there's a character of a wife. There's there's a heart of servitude. There's a heart of wanting to be help. There's a heart of edification, multiplication, just being a support, and also knowing how to respect men and people around you, not just men. So learning to cultivate this character of a wife. So that's where Wife in the Waiting was birthed. And that's what I do online. I help women
Mm.
find peace and contentment while waiting for the marriage that they say they truly want. And I think in today's culture, it's a very challenging space to navigate with the demands around us. So this was going on way before I got into education, way before I was headhunted. So the platforms are very much open, they're not private, anyone can have a look at them.
I had a look before we came on. You've got around 30,000 followers on Instagram. And then you've got other social media accounts. So it's not nothing. That's like a small town. It's quite something. It's impressive.
Yes, so Lady Gozen has about 30,000 and Wife in the Waiting, I think we hit 9,000 recently. So
Yep.
collectively there's a following, which basically meant that the more I spoke about this, the more people actually wanted to hear about it and they
Yep.
found value in what I had to share. It came to the school's attention 5 months into the position as Year 10 pastoral manager, that I posted a post which spoke on women being um, basically having a heart to serve her husband. And it was a woman testifying of, if my husband asks me to do something, I'll do it because I know he loves me. And I chose him and I knew that he was this kind of man and I was willing to do that. And she posed the question, what are you willing to do to be the wife that you say you want to be? And that is a central focus of the ministry Wife in the Waiting. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't put my opinion. It was actually a Muslim lady saying this. So she wasn't even Christian, but again, posing the question, what are you willing to do to be the wife that you say you want to be? And that apparently was a concern for the school. I didn't understand. They told me to make my page private, to which I did say there was nothing that I've signed, no policy to say that I had to be private. And to me, it was a ministry page. So I did kind of challenge that. And then I'm like, look, what do you want me to do? They're like, take it down. And then afterwards, the issue no longer became about that post because I took it down. It became about Wife in the Waiting, which I challenged again. I'm like, this is a Catholic school. Like, shouldn't you be in line with a woman who knows her worth and value, heals, and positions in purpose for marriage if that be her desire? Like, by no means do I say this has to be every woman. So, yeah, the issue was Wife in the Waiting. And I was like, why? They said, oh, it's 18th century teaching. And I'm like, what? They're like, this is the
Sorry, I
21st.
shouldn't laugh because it's a terrible situation for you, but come on.
I asked, I said, what does that mean? Like, spell it out to me. I don't presume a thing. I'm like, what does that mean? And she said, well, it appears as though unless you're a wife, you are of no worth. To which I responded and said, you know, that's wrong. As I've shared here, I'm still single. I'm not yet a wife in the natural. I don't have a ring on my finger yet. I don't have a husband yet. It's a desire. But I said to the head teacher at the time, I was like, you know that I regard myself of worth. You wouldn't have headhunted me otherwise if I didn't carry myself with worth value. So you know that's wrong just on the premise of knowing who I am as a person. I was dismissed on the day, happened to be my birthday also. It was almost as though I was now a danger to the students that I
Yes, a
had.
safeguarding risk, right?
Right, even though
Yeah,
I was a
yeah,
safeguard,
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
did all the training and everything.
And you have this time and time again. So It's okay to teach kids, look, go and have sex with anyone you want to. The only thing that matters is consent. But the minute you say, well, actually, marriage might be a good thing, oh, safeguarding risk, get out of the way. And you think, hold on. If you look at the stats, you look at the safety stats, you look at the happiest people on earth according to the stats. Well, actually, they're married people, and they're not people who sleep around. So your message is a good message. It's statistically sound and makes perfect sense in terms of people who live longer, people who are healthier, people who recover from operations better, people who are less likely to get involved in the criminal justice system, people who earn more over their lifetime. All these things are associated with marriage. It's a good thing that you're talking about, yet they deemed you a safeguarding risk. So you quite rightly, you went to an employment tribunal. Tell us about that.
Yes, again, it's like we're preparing a case and we don't quite know why I got fired, other than a termination letter that said my social media presence isn't in line with the school's ethos and mission statement. But even in that, we had an expert, a theologian, prepare a report who looked at my content, looked at my beliefs, and he declared that I was very much in line with the Christian faith and the canon law, which is what the Catholics believe in. Even the head teacher and associate head teacher, they were sharing how there was no evidence that I'd brought any of these views into the
Yeah.
school. We were very much confronted with the feminist view of today's world, which is very much women can do everything they want to do, they don't need men. Um, how dare you talk on subjects such as submission? How dare you create this image that women are worthless online, even though they know that's not what they saw and what they see in me. So the judge decided and the panel decided, the tribunal decided that my claims for wrongful dis well, for harassment, discrimination, for curtailing my freedom of speech were all dismissed. So we lost at tribunal. We are going to be appealing it, but it's a larger issue as you've shared.
I got a billion questions, right? I mean, we haven't got time for a billion, but what I mean, why on earth didn't you win? I mean, what's from their point of view? If you put your head in the place of the head teacher or whoever it was, I mean, steel man her argument. Why on earth was your constraint of free speech and speaking things which are evidently good? What possible objection and why did they win at tribunal?
We did hear that there was a complaint against my social media.
An anonymous complaint, right?
No written documents, no, we even have like a concern database, nothing logged in there. But there was apparently a complaint that said from a father, I send my child to a 21st century institution, not a 18th century teaching. So this father apparently complained. And what I saw is instead of standing up for the Catholic faith, Christian views, teacher was just like, oh, let's throw her under the bus, meaning me, and be done with this issue because we can't be dealing with lots of parents complaining against this. Um, and it was almost as though, had I been speaking on the current conversations around sexuality, gender, and alternative marriages, it almost would have been celebrated. But because of inclusion, um, the judge actually said that had a student from a different background looked at my page, they could have felt devalued, and for that reason, my case was dismissed.
Goodness me. I go around the country, right, Gezen, and I talk to thousands of our supporters. Many of them are teachers, and some of them will say to me, look, we're told not to emphasize issues about long-term relationships. Don't talk about long-term relationships. Hide that from the kids. And you think that is mad. And your wife in waiting thing. Well, I found one of those, and I tell you now, they're marvelous. And 30 years down the track, it's been the hardest thing I could ever have encountered in my life, right? Because she's no pushover. But the most wonderful thing, the most wonderful enabler of building my character, the idea that I, as a man, have been able to build this family, fight for this family, defend this family, think about how I want this family to grow and prosper, and that she knows that I would I would give my life physically, but more than that, every day, my role and my job is to sacrifice for her benefit and her worth and for the kids and everything else like that. And she looks at me and says, well, I respect that. I respect that. And I'm glad I've got somebody who's. And to criticize that is like, what do you want to replace that with? Something which is transient and passing, something which just uses you as a physical entity to get pleasure and then walk away and find somebody else. Goodness me, what? And this is a Catholic school. It just beggars belief, doesn't it? It really does.
I really feel for the generations coming up. And if there is no guidance in how to make healthy choices around sex and, around who they are, who they're created to be, the beauty in being a woman, the beauty in being a husband, a wife, a man. Like, we're not having these discussions at school. It's just leaving kids to wonder, and we're not guiding them. We're not doing what we need to as teachers, parents, even. I find I have a lot of discussions with parents um, not setting the foundation of sexuality, not setting the foundation of, ideally, this was how we were created, this is, God's intent for us, or this is a blueprint for humankind, that kind of thing. And then they go and they learn things at school, come home, and then now the truth is what they question, as opposed to it being the foundation of how we perform in society, how we are in society.
And you're right about most kids, according to the stats, are born outside of wedlock now, but most people are fat too, right? And I include myself in that, Gezen. But we don't for a minute say, well, we better not talk about healthy food and good eating in case, we offend those people who aren't doing it. Of course we don't. We don't, we don't look down our nose at each other because we're a bit podgy. That's ridiculous. That's someone's personal choice. But nevertheless, let's talk about what's good to eat and what's not good to eat so you can make a rational choice. Yet when it comes to relationships, it's all, well, have sex. The only thing that matters is consent. Have as many as you want with whenever you want. Doesn't matter. It's just consent. But don't talk about, settling down with one person. How absurd. How 18th century of you. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And we're not listening to the young people. There were many groups, small groups or one-on-ones that I had. And being a therapist too, I hear the trauma of adults and the things they wish they had, the stability of, the consistency and love and nurture of in their childhood years.
So tell me now, you've got this Instagram page and you've got the wife in waiting stuff, and we'll put up some links to those things so people can come and talk to you. Um, in terms of going forward, right? First of all, I want to talk about your appeal and where you're going to go and when you're going to go and what's going to happen there. But then I want to talk really about your advice. So what would you advise young people who think, we'll get onto that. But first of all, the appeal, what's happening, when's it happening?
Well, we only just got the decision last month, so we're preparing the appeal right now. Um, it's not a short process. It's the long haul. It's trusting the court deadlines and timescales that they give. So
And another big shout out to Christian Legal Centre, Christian Concern, who are supporting you through this, aren't they?
they have been incredible. I am doing a fundraiser to help raise money for them because they have not asked for one penny from me. It has been an answered prayer. It's something that I was willing to lay down unless there was help, and they just took on my case, haven't asked anything of me for it.
And what would you advise to people? Because there will be right loads of people who up and down the country who have been in a similar position to you. They've said something. They may not have your number of followers, but they've said something that they believe sincerely in, inadvertently, which everyone believed in up until 5 minutes ago, and they've got sacked for it. And they've just had to take it on the chin, and they're destitute, and they won't get a job again, and it's like, oh, my life's over. Um, and then there'll be even more people who see what's going on and daren't say a thing. Yep. So, what would your advice be to people who are thinking, well, either I'm in a really difficult situation now because I said something, or well, I just don't agree with what's going on, but I'm too scared to say something.
It's a very difficult place to be. I think just know your own values, know your own convictions, and there's a way of addressing these conversations without being confrontational. And absolutely, I would advise that. Be open to the conversations and, but what if I'm not of that consideration, or what if I'm not of that viewpoint, to kind of just let people know where you do stand, never shy, never kind of give in to your truth and the truth that you stand for just because of pressures. Because I think a lot of people are doing this in fear, but we know that fear kills situations. And if we want to see a change in the world we live in our nation, we need to stand up. We need to be confident with who we're created to be. We can either go through life and say bad things are happening to me, boo me.
Mm, mm,
We could say that there's a purpose for this. And if
yeah.
we understand that, I'm coming at this with my heart in the correct
Mm,
posture. And
mm,
I truly want to see people thrive. If you share, as you've shared, marriage shows that people thrive more. How can two walk together unless they agree? When one falls down, who will be there to pick the other one?
mm,
Like
mm,
these principles within marriage, you are literally doing life with someone to support you through it. So that's a beautiful thing. That's something we need to celebrate. That's something we need to even encourage with people. We have the most amount of loneliness now today than
yeah.
we ever had in any generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe that the stronger the nuclear family with a mum and dad
Mm,
and children, the stronger our communities, the stronger our communities, the stronger our society
yep.
and nation. It
Yep.
starts with the nuclear family staying
Mm.
together on one accord. And we need to take responsibility for how we train up our young children.
Marvelous way to end. And I'm sure you'll be delighted if some of our viewers get in touch. Any young viewers get in touch with some advice. You're there all over the internet. You offer services. Just looking at your stuff is all good advice.
Yes.
Gezen, it's just such a joy to talk to you.
Thank
All the
you so
very
much.
best with your appeal. When you've had it, when we had the result, come back and talk to us again.
Thank you so much. It's
Great.
an honor.